This is a phylogeny of life, and it's a hypothesis. It shows, based on the most recent data and the best data, how life has evolved on Earth. And this shows the major evolutionary events. So we start down here at 3.8 billion years ago with the universal ancestors. And notice I said ancestors. There was cells that probably had a fair amount of diversity that all came about, and they all had the common characteristic of they used some sort of nucleic acid. So remember we said originally it was RNA, but probably at the point where we're talking about life on Earth as it is today, they had DNA, they had a cell membrane inside of cytoplasm. Some key things that they were able to do was protein synthesis, so because all life on Earth does protein synthesis. They were anaerobic, so they metabolized using something other than oxygen, and they absorbed nutrients, which means they didn't intake anything into their cell that had to be first processed. Any breakdown of materials happened outside the cell. So there were two distinct lineages. This lineage right here that led to bacteria, and this lineage here that led to the common ancestors between Archaea and Eukarya. And the reason for the differences here was you had a chemically different protein synthesis. And that common difference between the protein synthesis is seen in both Eukarya and Archaea, and is one of the reasons why they're considered to be more closely related than bacteria. So at about 3.2 billion years ago, photosynthesis evolved, but it wasn't the form of photosynthesis that we know now. It was that form of photosynthesis evolved between 3.2 and 2.5 billion years ago, and it produced oxygen. That oxygen led to some major events. This group here retained its anaerobic metabolism, so as a result, up here you can see there was a major extinction event when oxygen in the environment got great enough to have an effect. And as a result, a lot of their numbers went down, and they were relegated to areas where they could live in an oxygen-free environment. So the ones that lived where there were organics available, but no oxygen, were the methanogens, and they produced methane. And you have the ones that lived in hot springs or hydrothermal vents, those are thermophiles. And then finally you have those that live in salty environments, those are halophiles. So those are all phyla, or the group Archaea, the domain Archaea. So then you have one of the things that evolved over here was aerobic respiration. So these organisms were all able to do an anaerobic metabolism, but using oxygen occurred or evolved in the bacterial lineage. This group over here broke off, and one of the things that happened in this group was intracellular heterotrophy. They got big, they were cell wall-less, and they were able to take things inside their cell and ingest them there and break them down there. So because they could do more stuff inside, they had a greater fitness, they were bigger. Some of the things that happened was fusion occurred, where they got bigger cells and larger genomes. So this would be the proto-Eukarya. And at some point around this time, the nucleus evolved. So there's a number of ways in which the nucleus could have evolved, probably infolding of the membrane surrounding the genetic material. And that was necessary, obviously, because with doing digestion inside the cell, the DNA was susceptible to being broken down. But in that group, endosymbiosis occurred with the aerobically respiring bacteria. And we have a lot of data to support that occurred. Mitochondria have their own DNA, and it's of the bacterial type. They have their own ribosomes, which are of the bacterial type. So all the common bacteria look like that.